DM made a game for one player. I had only been playing 4th for a few months back in 2011 with my roommates and my husband and boyfriend. One of my roommates had been a DM before and asked if we wanted to start a second game to play every other week to give our current DM a break and get to play. We all agreed excitedly and wrote up characters. I played a Scion, my husband a Warden, my roommate a Druid, our other roommate a Ranger. And our DM decided to play 3 NPCs, a Fighter, a Wizard, and a Cleric. We figured our party was a little small, so 3 NPCs would be helpful. Except we never got to do anything. The Druid got to do everything. The story centered around her entirely, which was mostly alright as she had the most important backstory, and it could cause the biggest conflict, which we all thought would be fun. Again, this wasn't a problem and brought us together as a group rather quickly as we all wanted to protect her from the BBEG. We were traveling around trying to find a way to defeat the BBEG as he was a super powerful necromancer. We kept coming across things that required our skill checks for, like locked doors, heavy boulders hiding a secret passage, a language scrawled on the walls, etc. We kept offering to move things, decode things, or even a simple perception check, but our DM would say, "Don't worry, NPC has it. Oh, NPC is already deciphering the language." All except for the Druid. If she wanted to do something, the DM would let her. It got to the point that we were all just playing around on our phones, or stacking dice, or drawing. We complained a little about not getting to do anything, and she'd just throw us into super hard combat whenever we did. So we stopped complaining for fear that she'd kill off our characters, and anytime we'd go into a new place to investigate, she'd ask what our characters would do, and my response would always be, "I hold the torch." We still had fun doing a few other things in the campaign, and she was our roommate, so we didn't want to quit the game, but it really made it not fun when all the excitement we ever got was combat. I just go home. I love this sub, but I've played with the same PPL for 30 years, so I've no horror stories. Or so I thought. I've just remembered an acquaintance of mine begs me to run some mutants and masterminds for them. I asked the players who their favorite superheroes were, whipped up a session, and I was ready to go. Players are expressway versions of Thor, the Doctor and the Invisible Women. Skipping to the good part. Me, the speech is caught short by a large explosion and a shout of "Powers out. Humans first" rings out. People are screaming, the crowd begins to panic. What do? Thor. I fly up and try to shout to the crowd to stay calm, while also scanning for the person who may have been the bomber. The Invisible Woman. I use force fields to protect Icon from falling debris. The Doctor IDK. I just go home. Me. Oh, you're going home to research the bomber? Or the Doctor. Nope. Just gonna go home. Me. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure what to do with that. The Doctor. Shrug. Me. Do you not want to play? The Doctor. Not really. And that was it. Game lasted 4 minutes. Still not sure what the hell that was. Gaslighted into thinking DM disappeared. I roll. Long. Point of order. I can only tell you what happened, the conclusion I came to, and the evidence to support it. This 100% happened as I remember it. A Reddit post in LFG was asking for players for a homebrew 5e setting. Very steampunk, Flying City of Gears style kind of story. We get chosen after talking online via Discord privately with the DM, and then we meet the other members of the newly formed group. Everyone seems chill and excited to play. The DM goes into his history of Ming, how he lives in Japan, and how he is Ming other games along with ours. Important for later, we get in gear. First session right into the heart of the story. We are all playing, fighting gods, music is playing on a bot. It was awesome. A poster child for how a game should start and feel, or so we thought. The week goes by, and we begin to pile in for session 2. All the players are in the Discord ready to go, and now we are just waiting for the DM, who was active and had messaged in the general chat an hour ago. He doesn't show. We wait awkwardly for 45 minutes waiting, trying to private message him, message his Reddit, nothing. We say maybe something happened? I hope he is okay, and agree to meet again next week, and wait in the meantime to see if he messages in the group. The week goes by silently. It is the day before game day. Radio silence. A new person joins the Discord. It is Guy. Made up name Guy says he is from the DM's other game and asks us if we have heard from him. The DM also missed their game and hasn't messaged anyone 0.0. At this point, we are all like, WTF? Where is he? What is going on? We barely know each other, so when game day comes and goes without him, we all awkwardly say goodbye after one session. As I hover my mouse over the leave Discord server button, I have a thought. How did Guy get into the server? No one knew him. He was a stranger who, according to him, knew the DM. The server was for our game alone. Made by the DM, and only he invited us. Who invited Guy? Did the DM fabricate this plan? This plan to end the recently started game by faking his disappearance and create a fake account under the name Guy to sell the story was our session 1 so bad collectively that he activated some Omega level last resort to avoid an awkward conversation? If this ending is disappointing to you, I agree. I still don't know. I stayed in the server for another month, sending messages to both accounts and got nothing back. It is the single weirdest experience in my life as a D&D player. The DM's friend wanted to bang my child character. So back when I was 16 I was in a group. I went over my character idea in a session 0 and it was agreed that it would be alright and wouldn't be any problems. She was a changeling druid aged at 9 years old. I based her on Annie from League of Legends, even using one of her skins as my token. So everything is fine for a while. My character is taken care of by the group as kind of a little sister. That's until the DM said his friend wants to try out D&D, so will be joining our group. Let's call him Barry. Barry rolled a standard chaotic good rouge human and immediately introduced him as a playboy. My character was the only girl in the party and I was the only female player too, so you can imagine where this is going. I ignore this weird comments and trying to hit on my character for a while before we get to a tavern. My character obviously couldn't drink, so asked for some milk. What I didn't know is that Em and Barry were private messaging and Barry rolled successfully on stealth to spike my character's drink. My character became drunk and his advances got even stronger. Some fellow party members told Barry he was being a creep, which led into an argument before the session finished early. Between that session and the next session I received multiple DMs from Barry hitting on me. I told him I wasn't interested in him as I was 16 while he was in his 30s too, had a girlfriend. Ensue the homophobic messages. So we reach the next session. For one reason or another my changeling turns into an adult version of herself to try pretend to be her own mother. It was very obvious it was still her due to the way I played her and her distinctive appearance, but Barry decided to try hitting on her once more. She's technically legal now, so it's okay. Later in the tavern, as the party was going to sleep, my character went back to her room. Another player decided from now on my character wouldn't be left unaccompanied, which I'm glad for. Barry started going off. I'm going to try sneak into Op's room. Chaos ensued. I'm going to steal all of her things, DM allows it, and with an at 20 all of my character's belongings. Inventory, even her teddy bear was gone, and he sold it off to the Rouges Guild. Another party member questions why he would do that to only my character, and in which Barry responds, because she's mega gaming. Both confused and fed up, I quit right then and there. Luckily for me the other 3 players backed me up and left too. Man, I just wanted to be a lil arsonist. No fantasy races means no fantasy races. I wrote a book. I don't want to dox myself, but the book is about a medieval exploration looking for a lost magical city. They actually find a Lovecraftian cult and unearth a church conspiracy. There aren't fantasy races and the only magic classes are warlocks, psionics and clerics. I'll let my Cthulhu group know about it, and they all seemed interested. I explained that it would be set in my book. They're all aware of it. I laid out the guidelines and they all make characters for session 0. They're all going around the table introducing themselves when one PC starts explaining that she's an elf from some weird elf place. I ask her if she remembers the restrictions, and she explains she read the core books. I tell her there's only humans in this world, and she asks if we're playing 5e. I tell her yay, but there's still not any humans. She asks why are we playing 5e, then I tell her that I'm only able to DM 5e since I'm not too confident with other systems. She starts explaining why 5e is bad for games without multiple races. I'll let her give her spiel before telling her that I'm still gonna run 5e without humans. She tells me that doesn't make sense. We start arguing about the relative strengths of 5e. I tell her I'm not gonna change on this, and she shows me an article explaining why 5e is good. I tell her if she keeps the elf she can't play, and she says she doesn't want to play a game with someone hosgutting 5e. I tell her that's fine and I'm glad we figured this out early. She starts debating the rest of the table, trying to get them to agree with her. Eventually she leaves and tells the GM for the other game that I'm running a shitty 5e game. She texts the GM just insulting me for choosing to restrict things, and when the GM defended me, she started insulting him. The GM ended up kicking her from his game. All of this shit happened because she's mad at me for different main choices. Edit. Sorry, my English is not the most well cleaned. My Berserk obsessed DM made his own version of the Eclipse arc and almost sexually assaulted a female PC for plot development. We had finally reached the climax of an otherwise normal Japanese themed campaign when our DM decided to send us to his version of the astral plane. Heavily inspired by the manga Berserk, it was no secret to us that the guy was obsessed with the manga, and little to our surprise he adapted his own version of the Eclipse arc. My character Human Monk was secretly the next in line to become a demon king, and he forced me to sacrifice the party for his plot. The first red flag. Suddenly the party are surrounded by flesh-eating demons that take a particular interest in our female rouge assassin. They ganged up on her, grappling her with tendrils, lifting her in the air, and attempting to remove her clothing with the intention to sexually assault her. All while chanting, "Woman, sex." This was extremely uncomfortable. Allowing such a thing was never discussed in a session 0 or before this session. When we questioned him as to the need for such a disgustingly perverted scene, his excuse was demons are evil and rape is the most evil thing one can do to another. I was quite honestly disgusted. Thankfully, before the DM could get any more disturbing and perverted, a fellow party member freed her. Finally, after like an hour I could play again, but now as a monster, he forces me to kill the party. Everyone died in the end. It's safe to say we won't be playing with that guy again. TLDR, Berserk obsessed DM lives out his Eclipse arc fantasy and tries raping a female character. Tell the DM what you actually want. Here's a short one with a happy ending I just remembered. I had a player who was new to the game. So as I always like to do, I was helping him build his first PC, as D&D can be rather counterintuitive at times, and I have seen a lot of new players regret their PCs and beg for death. We did not get very far on this one. I want to be a werewolf. I explained to him this was not going to happen as werewolves are immune to non-magical damage and passively regain health, which... No. This made him want it more, so I told him that no, and besides, lycanthropy turns you into an evil madman in my world. He got mad at me and tried to prove I was a bad DM with list articles he found on some BuzzFeed-like website. He kept yelling at me for like a week, showing me all kind of broke homebrew and insisting it was balanced, while complaining about variant rules I wasn't even using. I told him that if he wanted he could play a barbarian flavored as a werewolf from the Elder Scrolls plane shifted in, or a warden brought in with those same rules. But he kept yelling about how he had to be a werewolf and that it was my job. After about a week he finally gave up and said, but he mostly just wanted the body. He just wanted to be a humanoid canine who could walk fine on 2 legs or 4. This was not an issue. It never was. I explained to him that I already had a custom race system and a race of canine-like people that I had already approved, and that kobolds already walk that way, which is odd but okay. Finally he was happy. We have not had any more issues. But like I said, I told him several times some things he could have, but because he never told me what he was actually looking for, I was unable to help him. AITA, or am I being screwed? Me, DM Barbarian. Problem player 1 Bard. Problem player 2 Wife to problem player 1 Fighter. PC brother to problem player 1 Paladin. PC Wizard. PC. I will try to be brief, and I'm sorry if this is long. This is my first Reddit post and I really want to explain to the best of my abilities. We are running an intermediate session where the players are LVL10 and are fighting legendary monsters. I told them to optimize because survival is important. This was all agreed upon as a game we wanted to do. The day before the session starts, Barbarian asked me if his wife Bard can join. I say sure, I don't want to exclude anybody, but I warn that this will be a tougher campaign. He says it's not a problem, and then when the day comes she has never played D&D before and hasn't even made her sheet. Well, we spent the next 4 hours helping her while the Barbarian sat on his phone looking at memes. We got 2 hours in the campaign and she said she needed to take a nap, so we had stopped that day. Next week rolls by and when we pull up to where we are supposed to meet, which is the Barbarian's house, the Barbarian and Bard say they will be there shortly. After 30 minutes they apologized they were late, but they were in the middle of Mario Party. After about an hour, the Bard pulls out her laptop to play RuneScape, full blast. I told her not to do that. The Barbarian continues to play on his phone, lose track of initiative, and show a lot of PDA, making the group uncomfortable. Next week and again they are late, and in combat the Bard falls unconscious because she doesn't know how to play. She then cries and asks why I would do this to her. The Barbarian doesn't do anything about his wife, but the fighter tries to calm her down. This stopped the session for the day. Next time we play, the Wizard and Paladin are doing all the heavy lifting. And the Barbarian complains that he doesn't have any spell utility, even though he knows that Barbarians are purely martial. On top of all of this, they will cancel last minute, make out in the middle of sessions, interrupt people while they are Peter show memes, talk loudly amongst themselves, and complain if things aren't going their way. How do I address this? I worked really hard on this campaign. Edit. Update. I confronted Barbarian, and he said he understands why I would be upset, and he feels bad. He asked if I would reconsider having him leave, and I said he has one more chance. The Bard however didn't understand where she went wrong, and said that it's just a game. The Barbarian however stepped in. I just wanna thank everyone for the positive feedback.